Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Fox90 here. Welcome back to a brand new video and another episode of the F1 debate for you guys today here on the channel. Now, a couple of things to disclaim before we get into today's video. First things first, if I look a little bit weird, I've literally just got home from work and I've had a shower. Now I'm here recording this video, so yeah, my hair looks really weird, but at the end of the day, I don't really care about it too much. Second thing is second, this was not a scheduled F1 debate video. I had a special F1 debate video for the weekend, but it means I'm just going to have even more now. So, hey, if you like the F1 debate, you've got your wish. Today, we're going to be talking about Nyck Vries and his sacking from AlphaTauri via the Red Bull family, and obviously Daniel Ricciardo jumping in there. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on this. I've been very vocal about this during the F1 debate videos that I've done previously, but I wanted to give my thoughts on it now. Obviously, today's, this recording that I'm doing now was actually meant to be the F1 debate video, as my computer goes off. It was meant to be the F1 debate video for the British Grand Prix and my overall thoughts on that race. Don't worry, that's not going anywhere. Literally, as I finish recording this video, I'm going to be recording that video, which hopefully you'll see maybe Friday or Saturday. And then the next F1 debate video that I was going to do, which was going to be my little weekend special, which is talking about Mercedes-Benz and the development race behind them with Ferrari, Aston Martin and McLaren, is going to either Sunday or maybe, early next week. But Nyck Vries' situation has prompted me to come straight to the forefold and give my thoughts. So, what's happened in case you are living under a rock? Although by the time you're seeing this video, which will be Wednesday after Wednesday evening, you would have already known by now. And if you don't, wow, you really are good at hiding yourself. Nyck Vries has been sacked via AlphaTauri and has been replaced by Daniel Ricciardo to join the AlphaTauri team till the end of this season, or as they like to quote it, on loan from Red Bull, which makes no sense at all. But anyway, Nyck Vries is out of the sport, and effectively, it's a short video expressing my thoughts, my opinions, and as I always say, for my F1 debate videos in any circumstances, this is just my thoughts and my personal opinion. You do not have to agree with my thoughts and opinions, and there is a comment section that's available, always, down below. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Nobody is right, nobody is wrong. It's an opportunity for you to freely say what you personally feel. So, what do I personally think about the situation? Well, I've been very vocal about Nyck Vries and his time at the AlphaTauri team, and why, Red Bull have been very harsh on him throughout the entirety of this season, and unfortunately, it's been that way again. But speaking about Nyck Vries then, that, he started obviously his time at Monza, and of course, he had a great time there. He had a fantastic weekend, standout superstar, was brilliant in qualifying, and then had a fantastic Grand Prix weekend. But there was two things that were never really noted throughout the course of that weekend, which can kind of nullify it, but also back it in a separate argument. The first thing was obviously loads of people had grid penalties. That was the weekend where we were talking about grid penalties for engine regulations and how clumsy and silly it was. And then that's the first problem you've got. So multiple people were obviously thrown further back, and that obviously elevated Nyck Vries forwards, because we remember, I'm pretty sure it was during that qualifying session, he made a mistake actually, and was unable to improve on his lap time in the final part of Q2. But the problem you've got is when you've then got the engine penalties, all he needed to do was obviously maintain position. Now, don't get me wrong, he managed to do that, and of course, he was overtaken by quicker cars. I don't think Verstappen was actually behind De Vries at the point, but like Perez was back there. Sainz and Hamilton were all behind and eventually made their way in front of De Vries. So it wasn't as if Nyck Vries was in a little solo bubble, further down the order. And yes, Williams' strength on that, Williams' strength in general is that they've got very little downforce, very little drag, and have got incredible straight line speed. But even if you've got a car that suits that circuit, you need to be good and you need to be quick there. I mean, look at Nicholas Latifi, the man that's been at the Williams team since 2020. 2020? No, yeah, it was 2020. He's been at that team for that long, and yet he went into that weekend and was battered by De Vries, and in the race. For Red Bull then to go and sign Nyck Vries and then basically kick him out after 10 races and then replace him with Daniel Ricciardo exploits all the flaws of the entire Nyck Vries saga. De Vries obviously started the season really poorly. He was not doing good enough in qualifying, just starting last consistently all the time. and his race performances were not that good. And of course, Tsunoda picking up points finishes, I believe, in Australia, really just gave Nyck de Vries a bit of a wake-up call. But at no point did Red Bull ever give Nyck de Vries any form of support. Like, even before we were getting to the Spanish Grand Prix, we were having talks and rumours that Nyck de Vries was done within the Red Bull family, the bubble. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, this is the Spanish Grand Prix. You've signed a driver who's a rookie, who's had one Grand Prix, and I mean, even after that Grand Prix at Italy, you saw him after the race when he was, getting congratulations, whatever, for all the drivers. He was literally on the radio stating, if anybody would be able to help him get out of the car because his shoulders hurt so badly. This is, again, remember, this is Monza. This is not necessarily in terms of, really testing out your core strength, a track which is really going to hurt you as much as other circuits, because it is the temple of speed. Yeah, there's obviously, there's lots of high-speed corners in there. There's also a lot of long straights as well, where you do have a bit of time to relax in there. So you give that, as like, I guess, the excuse to sign him. But then when it comes to his struggles, well, let's cut down to his struggles. A lot of the racetracks he wouldn't have raced at for a very, very long time. Now, let's not forget that the last time that Nyck de Vries was in Formula 1 was a good 5 or 6 years ago, roughly. I'm trying to remember when he won the championship. It was either 2017, 2018, I think he may have won the championship, maybe before that. And now you're telling him, these tracks that he's raced at, he's not familiar with them all. Like Bahrain, he would have probably raced at if F2 was racing, F2 races in Bahrain. He would never have raced around Jeddah before because that's a new circuit. Australia, it's a revamped circuit, so you kind of lose a lot of what Australia had because, yes, of course, it's just them removing the chicane was the main piece, but they opened out the corners for turns 1 and 2, made that a bit more simplistic. They opened out turn 3. They readjusted the run, the chicane towards that new section, turns like 6 and 7. The main turn 11 had been readjusted. The final 2 corners have been slightly altered. It's basically a new circuit for Nyck de Vries in all of this. And of course, Yuki Tsunoda had the benefit of racing there last year. You then go to the next race in Miami, I think it might have been. Never raced in Miami before. Tsunoda would have raced in Miami, but Nyck's never raced there before. Baku, Nyck might have raced there in GP2, but he wouldn't have raced there in Formula 1. Well, so, Tsunoda did. Spain, again, it's a track that has completely changed, in the last corner. Now, that's sort of your level playing ground, because neither of the two anyone on the grid had never raced around there. So that's sort of like your level playing field. Monaco, again, slightly even playing ground, because Formula E raced around Monaco. But they only recently started allowing Monaco to be the full circuit. So it was, and again, it's a completely different car. Again, Canada, I don't remember GP2/F2 racing in Canada. I could be completely wrong on all these, by the way. I'm just putting it out there. Austria, you probably would have raced there before. And then obviously Silverstone. But the thing that was coming along is that he was getting closer and closer to Yuki Tsunoda. Like, in terms of their starting grid positions, granted, Tsunoda was out qualifying him. But let's not forget that Yuki Tsunoda has been in that team since 2021. This is his 3rd full season in Formula 1. And look at the backing that Tsunoda got. Because let's be real, in 2021, Yuki Tsunoda was pretty much labelled as the crash kid. The guy was against Pierre Gasly, who, in fairness to Gasly, in that specific season was by far his strongest season ever in Formula 1 so far. Gasly was on fire. Tsunoda was awful. He was constantly spinning. He was crashing. I remember the crash in qualifying in the French Grand Prix, for example. He was nowhere near Gasly's pace. And Gasly was up there fighting the McLarens and the Ferraris when the AlphaTauri was bringing its might. And you just kind of wonder, well, Tsunoda got the backing from that. And granted so, he is a rookie and he's come up through the Red Bull ranks. So you would obviously give him the time. Where was the time for Nyck de Vries? And it begs the question, did Red Bull even want Nyck de Vries in the first place? And was it a case like Red Bull, they've got junior drivers. There was obviously rumoured reports of Liam Lawson taking over from Nyck de Vries. But it was quite clear that they weren't ready to put these junior drivers into their junior team. So they've gone and got Nyck de Vries and put him in. But it was almost like, maybe he needs one more season. Damn it, I just don't want to put him in yet. Oh, bollocks, you'll do. There you go, Nyck, you had one good race. You go in there. And nobody supported Nyck de Vries throughout all of that. It really does annoy me, actually, that they kicked him out after 10 races. You know, he was, again, it's a rookie season. He's not exactly had any massive crashes. You know, he's had a couple, he's had his spins, he's had his mistakes. But guess what? That's what rookies do. And, of course, you can look at the comparison between de Vries and also Tsunoda in terms of performances and so forth. And yes, you know, in terms of race trim, Tsunoda's stronger at the moment. But again, also, like I said, this is Tsunoda's third season in Formula 1 and his third season in AlphaTauri. He's fully enhanced and adapted into this team. Nyck de Vries is coming into this team in his first ever full Formula 1 season, being thrown in the deep end like he is in the Red Bull family, and he's been chucked into a car that's, well, let's face it, probably the worst on the grid. So it's not exactly an easy feat for de Vries to get himself used to it, because for a rookie, if you, for example, you're a rookie that gets thrown into a Red Bull right now, you'll nowhere near be able to beat Max Verstappen, obviously. But the fact is because the Red Bull is so good, in terms of developing your overall skill, your confidence behind the wheel of a car, you are able to just do a little bit more. And if you over push it, it's much more easy to find that tune and that balance in your driving style. With this AlphaTauri, when it's a car that's extremely hard to drive anyway, and it's the slowest on the grid, in order to get more out of it, you need to go above and beyond the limit. But for somebody like Nyck de Vries, that's not the car that he needs for his rookie season. And I take this, look at Logan Sergeant, because I'm going to bring him onto this, because obviously he is another rookie within Formula 1. Logan Sergeant is driving in a Williams car, which again was, you know, is a quite a bad car at the moment. It's obviously making strides forwards, but it initially started as a really bad car. And if you look at it, Albon is the one that we're talking about. We're talking about him with his qualifying results. We're talking about his race performances. Have you noticed that nobody's talking about Logan Sergeant in his performances versus Alex Albon, whether it's qualifying trim or race trim? If you have a look at the qualifying trim, I'm pretty sure Albon has not been out-qualified by Logan Sergeant as of yet. I'm pretty sure he's whitewashed him so far. And then in race trim, again, I can't remember Logan Sergeant finishing in front of Albon. Probably if Albon DNF from a Grand Prix. And there's that comparison, is you've got one team where they've got a junior driver that's come up the ranks, who they're giving the support to because they know they need it. And then you've obviously got the experienced driver that's, you know, doing so well, but they're not hindering the confidence of this driver. The fact that we get towards the Spanish Grand Prix and we're thinking Nyck de Vries might not even make it to the Spanish Grand Prix, how on earth as a rookie are you meant to settle down in a team whereby from day one they don't even want you at that team? It doesn't make any sense at all to me, and I feel really upset for Nyck de Vries. I think he was kicked out too early. I also feel bad for Liam Lawson because he's been at the Red Bull Juniors Academy now since he was at the age of 17. And yet, all of a sudden now, he's gone from having an AlphaTauri seat available, not getting that AlphaTauri seat, so Red Bull pull an external source into the AlphaTauri seat, to then have that AlphaTauri seat re-available again, to not be considered, then be getting kicked out of, you know, not having that seat available, getting kicked out of the running for that, to then have a 34-year-old Daniel Ricciardo, who used to race at Red Bull and then left the Red Bull family to do something else, and it never worked out for him, to be put back into that seat. For me, it kind of grants two quite clear-cut conclusions. The first ones I've already mentioned. Nyck de Vries was never wanted by Red Bull. They didn't want him. They just didn't have any options. The second thing is the only reason that Daniel Ricciardo has been put into that AlphaTauri seat is to put pressure on Sergio Perez. There's no other reason why you put Daniel Ricciardo in that seat. The reason that Daniel Ricciardo was not racing in 2023 is because he wanted to find somewhere where if he was going to have a seat, it would be close towards the front of the field. Obviously, granted, you know, McLaren are in a situation now where they are at the front of the field after the British Grand Prix, but that wasn't so with Daniel Ricciardo. He struggled too much in the car. It just didn't suit him. It didn't work. So why would you put him there? Well, Perez is struggling massively in that Red Bull and has been way out of form, and it's a car that's won every single race this season and he's not made it into Q3 for the previous 5 Grand Prix. And it's actually started to become a little bit of a rarity of seeing him on the podium. You know, he got a podium in the Austrian Grand Prix, well done, but when did he last get a podium before that? He didn't get one in Canada, he didn't get one in Monaco, he didn't get one in the Spanish Grand Prix. You know, Russell, I believe, got the podium in the Spanish Grand Prix. Perez couldn't catch him in time. It's getting too inconsistent now. And again, Horner put out a statement saying that Perez's seat is absolutely abundantly clear, not, you know, under any form of threat. The funny thing is that Horner put out that exact same statement for Pierre Gasly, saying that his seat was not under threat. Can you remember what happened to Gasly? Oh, he got sacked, didn't he? He did, got demoted, and then Albon got his place. And guess what? Albon was also given the support and then kicked out that seat. This is the issue we've got. It's Red Bull's way. You're never going to change them. I hate the Red Bull way. I do, but it is the Red Bull way. But it's quite clear to me that not only is this just a feel-sorry moment for Nyck de Vries, it's a pressure moment for Sergio Perez to keep him on his toes, knowing that his seat's not strong for any longer. But it's also a clear testimony that the Red Bull Junior program that we once knew is pretty much over. You know, like I've said, with Liam Lawson, there's also another Japanese driver. I do apologise, I can't remember his name. It begins with like an A, it's like an AW, it's like an Awari or something like that. You know, he's doing really well in himself. And the whole point for me of having AlphaTauri as your junior driver, you know, your junior team basically, is to put your junior drivers in. Like, if you don't think that they're ready for Formula 1, when will they be ready? And the point is if you're in a situation where, you know, a driver may have been put into the sport too early, then reconsider it and just think, well, actually, right, we're putting you into Formula 1. Well done, congratulations. However, I'm going to be honest with you. I think this is a bit early for you, but take your time, settle in, we will support you. And it's exactly what every other team has done. Look at McLaren with Oscar Piastri. He's been supported. He hadn't started well against Lando Norris initially. He's still not as fast as Norris, but he's getting closer. And like the British Grand Prix was a prime example of that, of him, Norris and Piastri, himself, Norris and Verstappen pulling away, you know, from the front, from the Ferraris. Could you imagine that, you know, if that was like a De Vries type of moment? You know, you've got Max Verstappen in the all-conquering RB19, Lando Norris in a properly upgraded McLaren that he's been in since 2019, pulling away from the front three to have Oscar Piastri behind those top 2 drivers, even in the first stint going quicker than Norris and even trying to get his team to activate team orders. That just shows to you what type of a driver he is. And also, he's in a more settled environment and the car's better. So it's easier to drive. Okay, granted, it was slow at the start of the season, but Piastri just nailed it straight from the bat. And some drivers are like that. Some other drivers need time to develop, like your Mick Schumachers, your De Vrieses. Now, Mick Schumacher was given the support, but unfortunately, he was just crashing too many times, and it really cost Haas. And at the end of the day, Haas is the type of team that never really goes by the rookies. They go by getting experience in their team. So he kind of got the support there, and he had another season in his pocket to try, but it didn't work out. Whereas De Vries didn't get any of that, and it's a shame for him. And it's a shame, like I said, for, you know, for the Japanese driver and for Liam Lawson, because they should have been supported and they weren't, and it's a real shame. But yeah, it kind of shows that I don't really think the Red Bull Junior program is going to be, well, A, trusted, and B, really going to last that long in the future. But that's kind of my thoughts and opinion on the Nyck de Vries saga. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you end up enjoying this video, drop it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well, and I'll catch you guys for my next F1 debate video later on this week. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you then. Take care all, guys. Peace.